My name is Sarah, and for the last 6 years, being a mother has been the most important job in my life. It wasn't supposed to be this way. When my husband, Michael, passed away unexpectedly, our daughter Lily was only 11 years old. One day we were a normal family living in a quiet suburb outside Denver, Colorado. The next day, it felt like our entire world had fallen apart. The first few months were brutal. Lily barely spoke. I barely slept. There were nights when I'd hear her crying through the bedroom wall, and I'd sit outside her room because I didn't know what else to do. Sometimes she'd open the door and let me in. Sometimes she wouldn't. But somehow, we survived. One day at a time. 1 year at a time. And eventually, life started moving forward again. I never remarried, never seriously dated. People told me I should move on and find happiness again. Maybe they were right. But every time I looked at Lily, I knew exactly where my heart belonged. She was my priority, always. Now she's 17, smart, funny kind. The type of girl teachers adore. The type of teenager who somehow manages excellent grades while still having a healthy social life. She volunteers at an animal shelter, helps elderly neighbors, and somehow remembers everyone's birthday. Honestly, she's become an incredible young woman, which is why what happened recently has me questioning everything. Because I might have made a terrible parenting decision, or maybe I made exactly the right one. I genuinely don't know anymore. You see, alcoholism runs through my family like a shadow. My grandfather drank himself into an early grave. My mother struggled with alcohol for years. Several aunts, uncles, and cousins battled addiction. Family holidays often ended with arguments, tears, and regret. I grew up watching alcohol destroy lives. Marriages collapsed. Families broke apart. Dreams disappeared. As a teenager, I promised myself I would never follow that path. And ever since Lily was born, I've worried she might inherit the same vulnerability that seems to run through our bloodline. The older she got, the more concerned I became. Not because she was reckless, actually, quite the opposite. Because she was becoming independent. And independent teenagers eventually encounter situations their parents can't control. Sleepovers. Graduation parties, college, life. I knew someday someone would offer her a drink. The question wasn't if, the question was when. One Friday evening, Lily came home from a friend's birthday party. I was making dinner when she sat down at the kitchen island. "Mom?" I could tell immediately something was on her mind. "What's up, sweetheart?" She hesitated. "A bunch of kids were drinking tonight." I stopped stirring the pasta sauce. "Okay?" They kept asking me if I wanted some. "What did you tell them?" I said no. I nodded. "Good." She shrugged. I wasn't really scared. I just didn't know what to expect. Then she asked a question I wasn't expecting. "When did you first try alcohol?" I told her the truth. College, peer pressure, bad decisions, a few embarrassing stories. She listened carefully. Then she asked, "What does it actually feel like?" The question stayed with me for days. Because the truth was simple. Sooner or later, she would find out. If not today, then next month. If not next month, then in college. But chances were her first experience would happen around other teenagers. Without guidance, without honesty, without someone helping her understand what was happening. That worried me, a lot. 1 week later, I asked Lily to sit with me on our back patio. The Colorado sunset painted the sky gold and pink. For a moment, I thought about Michael, about how much he would have loved seeing the young woman Lily had become. I took a deep breath. "We need to talk." She immediately looked nervous. "What happened?" "Nothing bad." Then I told her everything. The real family history, not the watered-down version, the painful version. I told her stories about relatives whose lives had been destroyed by addiction. I told her about mistakes people made, relationships that ended, families that never fully recovered. Some of these stories were things I'd never told her before. By the time I finished, both of us had tears in our eyes. Then I said something she wasn't expecting. I don't want alcohol to become some mysterious forbidden thing. She looked confused. What do you mean? I walked inside and returned with a small glass containing a tiny amount of wine. Her eyes widened. Seriously? I nodded. Only if you want to. She stared at it, then looked at me, then back at the glass. For a moment, I questioned my own judgment. Was I making a huge mistake? Finally, she took a small sip. Instantly, her face twisted. Oh my gosh, I couldn't help laughing. What? People actually drink this voluntarily? I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my water. It's definitely an acquired. That's terrible. Soon we were both laughing. The tension disappeared immediately. For the next 2 hours we really talked about addiction, about peer pressure, about making smart decisions, about how genetics can affect people differently, about calling me anytime she needed help, no matter where she was, no matter what time it was. No questions asked. I told her I'd rather pick her up at 3 a.m. than have her ride with someone who's been drinking. She promised she'd call. When the conversation ended, I felt relieved. Not because she'd tasted alcohol, because we'd had an honest conversation. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was taboo. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, my phone started ringing. The first call came from my mother, Lily's grandmother, and she was furious. What were you thinking? I pulled the phone away from my ear. What happened? You gave alcohol to a 17-year-old. Apparently, Lily had casually mentioned our conversation during a family gathering. My mother was horrified. I tried explaining everything. That it wasn't a party. That it was supervised. That it was part of a discussion about family addiction. She wasn't interested. According to her, I'd crossed a line no responsible parent should ever cross. The conversation ended badly. Then came the texts. Then came calls from cousins, then aunts, then distant relatives. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Some called me irresponsible. Others called me reckless. One relative accused me of encouraging alcoholism. That one hurt. Because preventing alcoholism was the entire reason I'd done it. Within days, I felt like I was standing trial, and every family member had already decided I was guilty. Eventually, I started doubting myself. Maybe they were right. Maybe I'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe I was trying so hard to protect Lily that I'd accidentally done the opposite. One evening, I sat alone in the living room after everyone had gone home. The house was quiet, the same house where I'd spent 6 years trying to be both mother and father, the same house where every major parenting decision felt impossible. Then Lily walked in. She sat beside me. "You've been upset." I sighed. "Maybe a little." "Because of Grandma?" I nodded. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Of course." She looked directly at me. "Most of my friends hide things from their parents. I stayed silent. They lie about parties." She continued. "They lie about relationships. They lie about drinking." Then she smiled softly. I don't. Those 2 words hit me harder than anything, because she was right. She trusted me. Not because I was perfect. Not because I always had the right answers, but because I'd always tried to be honest with her. Then she added, "The reason I asked you about alcohol is because I knew you wouldn't judge me." My eyes filled with tears. After 6 years of doing my best on my own, I suddenly realized something important. There is no perfect parent. Every decision comes with risks. Every choice can be criticized. Every mistake feels enormous. But the goal isn't perfection. The goal is preparing your child for the real world. And the real world contains alcohol. Ignoring that reality doesn't make it disappear. Education and honesty might help far more. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't. I still don't know. What I do know is this. My daughter understands our family's history. She understands addiction. She understands responsibility. And she knows she can. Call me anytime without fear. A few months later, she turned 18. We celebrated with family and friends, including my mother. Things were still a little awkward. But before leaving, she pulled me aside. "I still don't agree with what you did." I nodded. "That's fair," she sighed. "But Lily is a wonderful kid." She is, and she clearly trusts you. For my mother, that was practically an apology. I smiled. I'll take it. Later that night, I watched Lily laughing with friends, confident, kind, strong, growing into an amazing young woman. And for the first time since the controversy started, I stopped worrying about whether everyone approved of my parenting, because the only thing that truly mattered was the person my daughter was becoming. Looking at her that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Maybe I made the right decision. Maybe I didn't. But if motherhood has taught me anything, it's that the hardest choices aren't always about being right. Sometimes they're about acting with love, honesty, and